Okay, Masechta bava basra daf chav gimel amud aleph. We'll stop in the Mishnah again. On chav beis amud beis machiknas sulam in hashivcha abamis. We have to distance the ladder from the dove coat 4 amis. And I'm going to read l'chatchila what it says in Rashi. Somebody somebody who his shachin, his neighbor, has a dove coat in his chatzah, samach l'kaisel, next to the wall, which is between shabein shtei chatzeres, which is between the 2 chatzeres, and the person on the other side comes to bal hamatzul machatzerei bechatzeroi eitzak, and the first guy, there's Reuben and Shimon. Shimon has the dove coat. Reuben has a ladder. Reuben wants to place a ladder on the joining wall that's between the 2 chatzeres. So when he places that ladder, make sure you distance that ladder 4 amas away from Shimon's dove coat. Reuben, who's placing the ladder on this joint wall, should make sure he places the ladder 4 amas away from the dove coat that's on the joining wall. So that this weasel shouldn't jump out of the hole, jump onto the ladder, and eat up all the pigeons over there. And so too, we have to distance the wall from the gutter that's at the end of the gag, Abba Amas. If you want to put a wall between 2 chatzeres, right, you cannot put it up against the guy's roof, up against the guy's gutter, because there's no way of him getting to the gutter. So when they want to build a joining wall, make sure the wall, or if Reuven wants to build a wall between the 2 chatzeres, make sure Shimon has enough space, 4 amas, to put a ladder on a slant to be able to touch the gutter. Abba amas, he should have 4 amas. Again, so he says, you have to distance the wall from the gutter. Abba amas, 4 amas, for him to be able to tilt the ladder for the person who has the house with the gutter, should have to have 4 amas between the wall and the gutter in order to be able to put a ladder that gets tilted onto the gutter. You need that 4 amas in order that the ladder should be secure. In fact, you want to let us like Rabbi Yosi. Let us say how Mishnah doesn't follow Rabbi Yosi, because if it's Rabbi Yosi Ha'amah says in the later Mishnah on Chafei Amid Beis, that when there's somebody who wants to plant a tree, let's use Reuben. It's better. Reuben has a tree he wants to plant. Shimon has a bird on his side. Reuben, so Zeh Chayfa, B'Sei Rabbi Yosi Paskins, the person who wants to make a pit digs in his own issues. And even though the tree could have roots and break the bird, Rabbi Yosi says, if the bird is concerned, the nizik is concerned that his bird eventually will get destroyed, he has to distance himself from wherever this guy planted his tree. It's ala nizik lahachik, it's not ala mazik. Okay, so says the Gemara, the same thing is over here. Our Mishnah cannot follow Rabbi Yosi. Why? Because what does he say? The nizik has to distance himself. And by the Shoivach, what do you say? Make sure when you put up that ladder on your side of the wall, you remember Reuben has the ladder side of the wall. Shimon has the Shuvach on the wall. So we told the Reuben, when you put up that ladder, make sure it's away from the Shoivach 4 amas. Why? According to Rabbi Yosi, if it's a minor shus, I can put it whatever I want. You're concerned about your Shoivach? Take your Shoivach out of here. Okay? So we can even say it goes according to Rabbi Yosi. Ravashi had said, when we were learning the base medrash of Rav Kahana, he would say, Rabbi Yosi admits, is agreeable that the mazik is going to be at fault and he has to distance himself if it's going to be almost a direct damage. Why is it direct? Because he says over here, because Rabbi Yosi says, let's say, if it's a direct damage, let me just tell you his shita is. If you're standing in your chatzah, and by doing something in your chatzah, like you're going to take an arrow, it's your chatzah, you could shoot the arrow from your chatzah, but it's going to start flying into your friend's chatzah and start doing damage. That you can do. You can dig in your own chatzah as long as it's not a direct damage. But if it's a direct damage, you're chayiv. So Hachanami here also, it's a direct damage. At the time, that sometimes he's holding on to the ladder to put it by the wall, and as he's putting it on the wall, the weasel jumps on the ladder, jumps from the ladder onto the wall, and eats up all the pigeons in the shevach. So there, Rabbi Yossi says, oh, it's direct. Yeah, so then he can't just put a ladder with him 4 amas. That's direct. It's not direct for Gramo. It's still gram. He's not doing it. It's not because his ladder, yes, he was holding on the ladder. He made it more accessible for the weasel to get on the roof.
What's the difference if he's holding the ladder or he put it already down the
because
ladder?
It's considered b'yadav. No, here. So he's holding the ladder. He's assisting, we thought, he's assisting the weasel to get on top of the wall. So he says, still, it's gamo. It doesn't make it direct. It's still indirect. This is noteworthy. It's also. It's potter if it does the damage, but it's also. I can come over to you and I see you putting a ladder. Get your ladder ahead. Don't put it over here. I can tell you it's also. Because you're gonna cause me damage, even though you're gonna be potter. Even though he's putting it, he could tell him, don't do it, it's awesome because you're going to do a damage to me. Yeah, it's awesome. He could tell him that, but if the damage happens, he's going to be potter. Yeah. Rav Yosef, Havali Hanatali. Rav Yosef had these small date trees. The Hava also, Yosef Teshayim. He would have bloodletters that were there for years, and they do their work. They go under the shade of that tree, and they would let out blood from other people. What happens? Who's attracted to the blood? And the ravens would come and dip their beaks in the water, in the blood, and then of course they were shushed away. Afterwards, they would fly on these dates, and they would give a little nibble and smear the whole date with blood. And these dates got destroyed. Not destroyed. The guy wouldn't eat it. Take away kurka is the sound that the ravens make. They make these funny sounds. So he says, get rid of these kurka from here, meaning stop letting the blood so that you're attracting the ravens over here, and then they destroy my dates. In fact, the dates, because with the blood, they go on their beaks, they go and smear the dates. It's not direct damage. Puts blood, so they're letting out blood, and the ravens come, and then the ravens get shoot away, and they run up on top of the tree. That's mamish grama. It's noteworthy to say from our Mishnah to learn out the grama b'nezakim also. That even though it's only gram and you would eat potter, but it's usher, and I can tell you not to do it. In fact, you wonder, how can he tell him to leave? He has a chazaka. The bloodletters have a chazaka. They've been there for 3 years. We're soon going to learn cheskes abatim. That's it. And the guy wasn't beicha, so they have a right to be there. So Rav Yosef answered, what kind of a taina is it? You have a chazaka. Not a chazaka to do me harm. Chazaka to do me harm. Just because you have a chazaka to take a dump in my field every day, and all of a sudden, it's...
When all of a sudden the ravens came, all these years the ravens didn't come.
The ravens always came, but now it's you'll soon see. He can't look at it. He can't look at his dates. We'll soon see. Did we say what is considered as ein chazak l'nezakim? What kind of a nezek? Let's say the guy had in the downstairs, he had a dyeing factory, and he had a lot of smoke coming out from the oven, and so the smoke, he could tell him, look, I don't care if you have a chazak, I can't. The doctor told me it's too much smoke, I can't handle it. I smoke 8 packs a day, and now I have you smoking in addition. It's terrible. Rav Zid says no. No, he doesn't say no. He says the guy put like a sewer line or a septic tank right under the guy's porch, and he doesn't use the front of his house or the back of his house, and that guy has a porch in the back of the house, and the smell is getting terrible. So he could tell him, even though you were there for 3 years, but now that it smells, now that it smells, I don't want you there. I'm a lay. So he said to Rav Yosef answered Abaye, yeah, you're right about those two nezakim, but it's not dependent on only on those two nezakim. Hani lididi danina datoy ki kutu beis hakisei damali. Rav Yosef says, I'm a istanis. Istanis means I'm very sensitive to anything. And to me, blood on top of these dates, even though another person would just wipe it off or wash it off and eat it, but to me it's very sensitive. So therefore, it has a din like the smoke or beis hakisei, which is called a chazakah l'nezakin. Zok the Gemara, machikin, next Mishnah. Here Tesis brings down, if you want to see, l'didi danina da'atoy, pirish shahoye istnis, that he was istnis, kedamina ba'avi psachim, shloisha chayim enu chayim. There are three people, their lives are not lives. Somebody who's a person who has a lot of achmanis, and he can't get over it. Somebody who gets angry, and he's angry the whole, he can't get over his anger. And like him, like Rav Yosef in this case, everything is bothers him. How do you call these people? Clean freaks. I don't know what you call them. That everything has to be exact, clean, 100%.
Well, somebody that is always worried about his health is called a hypochondriac, right?
Yeah, but here he says anybody who's, he can't get over, he has achmanas, so much achmanas, he can't get over it, or somebody gets angry right away. And Jesus says, I have all of these problems. That's what Jesus says.
He gets angry.
He was vocal about it. He was.
I'm the same person. I'm angry at you, but I'm.
No, he can't get over anger. No, he has achmanas and he can't get angry. Okay, good. A perfectionist, right. Anyway, one has the distant dove coat from the city 50 amas in order that these. Why? Because these pigeons can come into the gardens of the people in the city where they grow vegetables and they'll destroy it. So therefore, he shouldn't put a dove coat within 50 amas of the city. He shouldn't place a dove coat in his field. Only if he has 50 amas from the dove coat that he put in his field away from the city from every direction. Rabbi Yehuda says, base abas koirin. Rabbi Yehuda says there has to be a distance of 4 koirin. 4 kurin is around 273 amas, he says.
It's more than 5 times the amount that
Yeah. Yes. And why? The full one flight of a pigeon in one shot goes that distance. But if he bought this, let's say he bought this field from somebody else with the shubach in his karka, which is within 50 amas, even if it's just a quarter of a kav away from the city, he bought it with that chazaka, and the Gemara is going to talk about what's the heter. That he can keep it as is, even though it's within the city, within 50 amas of the city. So Gemara, only 50 amma v'sulai. You're saying that a pigeon only flies in one shot 50 amas, no more? What do you mean? I'll ask you a question. It's in Bava Kama Ayin Tes. It says, "Ein person nishbin liyonim." You cannot spread traps to catch pigeons which are hefker. Elam kein hayarachim min hayishu shloishim ris. Only if it was 30 ris away from the city. Because if it's within that shear, then you're probably going to be taking away from the people of the city.
Taking one away.
Their pigeons. Unless it's further, it's 30 ris away, then you can say it's hefka. Only if you put the traps 30 ris away. I'm sorry, so what did I say? You're right. The yoinim, you're right, very far distances, much more than 50 amas at a time. Why do we give the share of 50 amas till the city? Because once it finishes the flight of 50 amas, it already filled up its stomach. The first 50 amas, it's busy filling up the stomach. After the 50 amas, it's not going to destroy anybody's gardens. It's not going to eat. In fact, the Gemara You're saying it only flies 30 ris and no more. But Tanya, we learned in the Brayso.
How much is Shloshim Rises less compared to 50 amas? It's more. How much more?
I'll tell you in a
less?
second. I just saw the amount. It's 8,000 amas, Shloshim ris.
Oh, really?
4 million. Yeah, Shmeinas alaf mamas.
Oh, that's quite a distance.
It's very far distance. And now the Gemara is asking, that's it, it flies even more. It only goes 30 days and no more. But Tanya, we learned in the Brayso, but Yishuv, in a settled area, I feel a meya meal, lo yifres, even 100 mil. Don't spread out any traps because it's going to belong to the people of the city. And the Gemara have Yisama, but Yishuv shall kramim. It's talking about a Yishuv where there's many vineyards, a settled area where they could stop by each vineyard. Ravama be Yishuv shevachim. It's a Yishuv that there are many dovecotes. So in such a case, it probably belongs to those people because the birds from the city are able to fly far out because there are many kramim that it could stop by, or many dovecotes it could stop by. In fact, it should be forbidden even when it's dovecotes, right? Because of these dovecotes itself, that it's able to fly and stops by that dovecote, it belongs to somebody. And the Gemara Iba is saying that the day, all those dovecotes are really his personal. He's talking about after he finishes with his own dovecotes, then he has to. That's why it's able to fly 100 mil because of all of his own personal dovecotes. Iba is saying the Knani. Others say it belongs to a goy, and therefore, after 100 mil, he could after 100 mil, he could take those pigeons. By saying the hefker, that those dovecotes are hefkedike dovecotes, and he can take it from hefker. Sagt die Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Hema Beis Abbas Kurit, that if he bought a shevach from the hand of another person, then he could keep his shevach there. If he bought it like that, if he bought the field with a shevach, which was within 50 amas of the city, we say that's not a problem. He bought it like that, and he could keep it like that. He has a chazaka. This is what the Mishnah is coming to teach us. We tie it for a lekei, we tie it for a yeresh. So Rashi says over here, normally, a chazak she'eni motaina is not a chazaka. If I come to you, I say, it's my field. He says, no. Saul answers, I was here for 3 years, it's mine. That's not good enough. You're going to have to say, you bought it from me, and v'haraya, I bought it from you, I have it for 3 years. So where's the shtar? 3 years, I lost the shtar. That's a chazak she'eshi motaina. But a chazak she'eni motaina is not a chazaka. But he says, when it comes, if you bought it from somebody who had a chazaka, so he just has to say he bought it from Reuven, who had a chazaka. He doesn't have to say that Reuven bought it from Shimon. If Shimon comes now to Levi and says, give me my fill, so he says, I bought it from Reuven, who had a chazaka, he doesn't have to prove that, he doesn't have to say Reuven bought it from you. Bezdin takes over. And the same thing is with a Yerush. A Yerush who inherited a field, and the guy says, this is my field. So the Yarshim Taina, look, our father gave it to us. He was there for 3 years. They don't have to say that our father bought it from you. President takes over. That's what you're coming and saying. It's noteworthy. What do you mean it's noteworthy? As if it's a chiddush. Yerush Tanina, we already learned. We learned this din. Haba mishum Yerusha. A Yerush who Tainas, that he has the Balbatishkeit over the field because of Yerusha. Ain't it Tzarech Taina? He doesn't have to bring up a Taina that my father bought it from you. We needed it after the Gemara. We needed it for the lekeach, because to tell you that if he bought it from Reuven, he doesn't have to say Reuven bought it from you, Shimon. Says Gemara lekeach nami. Tanina we also learned lakach chotze. He bought a yard from Reuven. Bought a yard from Shimon. Ubazizan, and he has a small ledge sticking out over the Rishus Harabim. Ugzustaris, or a full-blown balcony over the Rishus Harabim. This is the cheskas that he has the right to have the porch over the Rishus Harabim. That's the chiddush. Says your mother.
Why do you have to let us know this?
Like Keich Nami Tanina, we just said, what do you have to let us know that we already learned the Fedish that he has the right to that? And for the Gemara Tzich, we need to side our Mishnah and side this case, and side this Mishnah. Why? If you're going to talk about the case there where the guy had a balcony, a porch over the Rosh Hashanah, we're going to say for sure this guy originally had his house further out. He took his house in. He had the property, but he decided to move his property in order to be able to have a porch over his Shusayachid. But now it became like a Shusarabim because he moved his house in. So really it's his. So that's why we say that's most probably how he has the porch. Or we say he went to the 7 Tubei here. What do you call them? The community council. What do you call these guys? The Shiva Tubei here. Okay, and he persuaded them, or he paid them money to be able to use the Shus Rabim there. So that's how he got it. That's what we have to say happened. But over here by the Shaivach, the Hezek is only against the Yachid. I would have said, no, he strong-armed him. He did what he wanted, and he saw the Yachid as a Kutsha Lemel, so he went and he forced his Shaivach over there, even though it could do harm to the guy's field. Says, you want to be Yashmin and Hacha, and if you would only talk about the Shaivach, I'll say, given the Yachid, you only have to deal with one person. One person I can persuade or give him money and buy him off. That's not a problem. Or that he persuaded the Nizik, let me have it without money. He was Meichelit. But when you're dealing, when the Rabbim goes with the bicycles, in those times they used to carry stuff on the head and then pass these porches, and the porch would knock off the thing. You could do a damage. So in such a case, Ma Pius, who's allowed to go ahead and accept money on the backs of the people in Shusam who are getting damaged? Uman Shavik, who could be Meichel to such a thing? I would say no, that he has no right to keep the porch there. Tzicha, that's why we needed it to tell you no, that he probably either he moved his house on inside, he really owned the property there, and he moved his house inside in order to have the balcony over, or he settled it with the Shiva Tuvayir. So you want to that the Seicha, it's his. What do you mean it's his? He can keep his balcony there, or the Shoivach, he can keep his Shoivach there if he bought it with the Shoivach being within 50 amis of his neighbor's field. There's no such a thing as a chazaka if it's going to do damage. And for the Gemara, Hamari said only by smoke, something that's smoking, and let's say the guy was there for 3 years, says, okay, I already suffered enough with your smoke. Okay, take your smoking, whatever oven out of here. You can't have it on the first floor. It's going up into my apartment. Or he put a Beis Akise. He put like a little public, those public bathrooms they put in Prospect Park. He put it under the guy's porch because for the kids to play outside. And they have now a public toilet under his porch, or under, his house is extended a little further. They started to smell. He says, I'm already sick of the smell. Get it out of here. Get your portable toilet out of here.
How far do you have to be?
What do you mean, how far? As long as he smells the toilet, he can tell him to get rid of your toilet. That's what he's saying. The smoke.
How far is that?
Oh, you can figure it out. It doesn't take much. You can smell it. Look, he doesn't give any shurim for that. Okay, Zag the Mishnah. Nipoil. A goizel, a pigeon, hanimtzu b'sei chamish mama, which is found within 50 amas, harei hu shabal hashevach. If it's found within 50 amas, a pigeon, of a dovecote, then it belongs to the one who owns the dovecote, the pigeon, because it's within 50 amas. Chutz mechamish mama, if it's outside of 50 amas, harei hu shamoitze, it belongs to the one who found it, because it's after 50 amas. Nimtza, if the pigeon was found bein shnei shevachis, between two dovecotes, says, do you want to cut over the shevach zeh? Shalai. Cut over the shevach zeh? Shalai. Whoever it's closer to, that's who it belongs to. Matzah. What's it exactly in the middle? It's mamish between the two dovecotes. So then, yachleiku, you divide it.
Why did
You
the
cut the
law say
chicken
call
in
the
half,
Alan
the
Bar?
pigeon in half. What?
Call the Alan Bar, no?
No, it's mamish in half. So you divide it.
So what
It's a middle.
But the bird
Mama
is
na
going to
mutter besafik, chok, mleishbu, yichok, that's like sumchis. I'm just saying, it's mamish yachlik, it's a suffix, a real suffix. So you divide it. Amar Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina said, Reiv v'karev. If you have a choice of Reiv and Karev, hilchanach haReiv. We go after the Reiv. Like, we're going to soon talk about it. V'afagav the Ruba Darais v'Kuba Darais. So even though Reiv is min ha'Torah and Karev is min ha'Torah, afilachi Ruba, nevertheless, Ruba is better. Where do we find the Indian of Reiv? Achrei Rabim Lahates. Where do we find the Indian of Karev? We say by Egel Harufa. If you found a dead person between two cities, so who gets the Schusim Chas V'Shalom? Who needs the kapara of the Egel Harufa? The one that the dead person is closer to his city. Those there, the Ziknei Ir come out, and they have to say Yadeinu Lo Shafchu as Hadam Azem Eineinu Lo Yira'u. Our hands didn't spill this guy's blood. We didn't see, and they bring the Egel Harufa. So that goes after whoever's closer. Ruba means when you have basa. If you have 9, you found a piece of meat, and 9 of them are kosher, and 1 is treif, and you found the next to the kosher store. If it's reiv, you go after the reiv. They found we're going to talk about korban also. Okay, Masar Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera asked the question. It says in the Pasha of Egel Harufa, the city that will be closer to the dead person, it says that the Zikna Ir will take Egla and throw down this Nachal Esau, and that will be the Kapara. Okay. Even though there's a city that's further away, but there are much more people, so since there's much more people, maybe the murderer came from the city. After the Raiv, there's more people. So in such a case, and that's the halacha, that you should go after the Raiv. So but over here we said, here you see you go after the Karev. We should go after the Raiv because there's another city with much more people. And here the Mishnah says that, I don't know if it's a Mishnah, but the halacha is, the city that's closer to the dead person automatically has to bring the Egel Harufa, even though the other city has more people. If you go after the Raiv, we should go after the Raiv. And the one with the Leika, it's talking about around that Cholol, there's no other city that's bigger than the city that it's closer to. It's the same amount of people. Let's say in the world, there's bigger cities or bigger countries with more people, and we should go after those countries or not. Or if you have a suffix between the countries, don't bring Egel Harufa at all. If it's being that there's a Raiv. No, he was this person that was killed was found in the mountains where there are not many cities around. It was in the hillbilly town in the Hicksville. So there we go according to the cities that are around there, whichever it's closer to. Those are the people that have to bring the Egel Harufa. So we learned the Mishnah. We're going back to the Mishnah. Nipoil, the pigeon, which is found within 50 amas of a dove coat. It belongs to the owner of the dove coat. Even though there's another city that has more, much more pigeons. You understand? So if there's another dove coat, right, that has much more pigeons, we should go after that one, because you go after the Raiv. Again, you found a pigeon. One city that's within 50 amas, you're right, of the one shuvach, but that shuvach has very few pigeons. But the one that's like 100 amas away has thousands of pigeons. So we should go after the Raiv. After the one with the Leika. There, that Mishnah is talking about that there wasn't another dove coat that was much bigger with much more pigeons. If there was no other dove coat, look what it says in the Sefer of our Mishnah. If you found the pigeon outside of 50 amas, it belongs to the one who found it. In fact, if you're talking about there's no other dove coat, It had to come from that shevach. It had to come from that daf coat. Daf cut. Okay? And the Gemara over here it's talking about bimedada. Bimedada means that it's hopping around. It's a bird that cannot fly. The Rav Ukba said any pigeon that's hopping, it cannot hop more than 50 amas. And therefore, if you found it within the 50 amas, it belongs to the shevach. And if you found it after the 50 amas, that means it's a bird that can fly, and it came from elsewhere. And therefore, whoever finds it, it's a hefker, a pigeon, you can take it, because it cannot move more than 50 amas. So
is that a fact or just a halakha?
that's a fact, and don't start with the fact because Rabbi Yirmiyah was thrown out of the Beis Medrash because he was arguing with a fact, according to Rashi. But Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Yirmiyah is the question. Ragli achas b'sei chamishim amma, v'ragli achas chutz b'chamishim amma. If the pigeon who was hopping had 1 foot in the 50 amas and 1 foot out the 50 amas. Mao, what's the din?
At what point? When you found it?
When you found it. For this shaila, they threw him out of the Beis Medrash. And Rashi says, you know why? Because Rashi says because he was coming up with shailas that were uncommon and wasting the Tanaim's times. So Taisa says no. Taisa argues. He says, look, this is not wasting the time. You found a case that is exactly in the middle. You said a case. So Taisa says, huh? Chalukah, yeah, no, you found it exactly in the middle. He says that's normal. That's a real case. Here he says. He says, so I mean, that's not a question to you. And so you don't find that. Only how could you find that it should be exactly in the middle when 1 foot is on one side of the chamishim amma and 1 foot is on the other side? So the Rashba explains.
The pigeon stays put, it doesn't
Yeah,
go
it
away.
doesn't move.
So what does the Rashba?
No, left.
Okay.
The whole left.
So the
Wait,
Gemara
look at
says.
it. Is it the right foot or the left foot? Go after the right foot.
So he says, what was the problem? Because since the Chachamim gave a shear, so since the Chachamim said when it hops, it only hops up to 50
And
amas,
then why did it say foot?
so that it doesn't go further. So once you found, by your question, you were questioning the shear of the Chachamim about the foot being after 50 amas. If you want, we can do one more Tashma. I'll take a second. Tashma, come in here.
Tashma, second.
Okay. If you found a pigeon between two dove cuts, karev lezeh shalai. Karev lezeh shalai. If it was closer to one shevach, it belongs to that shevach. If it was closer to the other shevach, it belongs to that one.
So what was the case before?
What?
What was the case before?
What do you mean? What was the case before?
Wasn't it between two shevachos?
No. If benegayah to hefker, there wasn't between two shevachos. We said it up to it go
If
up
it's
to
beyond 50, you can
beyond
keep it.
50. You can keep it. Up to 50, it belongs to the shevach. It wasn't talking about two shevach. No, that's not. We're not. It wasn't talking about two shevach. It was talking about
Fine, just keep it.
up to 50 amas. It belongs to the shevach. After 50 amas, there was no shevach. So we said it was hefker. Yeah, you're going backwards now. Okay, let me go. Says the Gemara, even though one of the dove coats was more, had much more, so we should go after the raiv. And the Gemara, if you have karev or raiv, one shevach had much more pigeons, so we should say it came from the one that's further, because we go after raiv. So he says, it was exactly the same amount. We should go according to the raiv of the world and say, hey, since it's from the world, it should belong to him. My skin says over here, it's talking about bishvil shel krami. How did it go? It's talking about when the sheikhim were between vineyards, and the ibn isa the ma'ama asi, and we're talking about that it was only hopping. It could only hop till chamishim amma, and if it came from the outside, even the bidadi loimatzi asi, since even if it's hopping and it cannot fly, it wouldn't go further. It can go more than 50 amas, but the chol the bidadi the chazil chazil leilakinei. midadi. As long as it hops, it will hop away, but it will hop away as far as it knows that it can go back. It sees where it can go back to, then it hops. But if he sees he's going too far, the chick sees it's going too far, loy midadi, then he won't hop further. And since these kramim are mafsik between the shevachim, so we say it doesn't make sense that it was only between these two shevachim, but that was where the kramim were there, and whichever it was closer to, that's who it belonged to.